We know your time is valuable.
That's why we've created processes to keep your job running smooth.
We know you expect 5-star service.
That's why we're committed to delivering 7-star.
We know it's your home and your choice.
That's why we provide options and let you choose the right solution for your home. Experience the LCS way with LCS Heating and Cooling at lcsheatingandcooling.com.
Outside the Forecast on WTHR Plus is sponsored by LCS Heating and Cooling.
And we're here to talk to you today about everything that goes on in the summertime between the stormy weather and the fireworks. We know that loud noises and dogs are not best friends. So talk to us about kind of the psychology behind why dogs do not like those loud noises they hear.
When it comes to storms, they can actually feel the pressure changes up to 6 hours ahead of time. So they know they're coming. So that's a little different than just the noise part. So for some of them, they anticipate it. And so we've got to start working on their anxiety well before it comes. The storms, as far as noises and fireworks, in some cases, they've grown up with them. Or during their puppyhood, when it was an important time for learning, they were able to experience it in a way that wasn't scary. Some dogs haven't gotten a chance to experience it, or it came at a time where it really did scare them and it stays with them. So they're not naturally scared, but it happens at a certain part, either in their puppyhood or during an event when they're an adult, and it sticks with them.
So what are some things that we can do? Well, let me ask you this. Is it something that you can unteach them? Is it something that they can be maybe through different types of therapy or something like that? Is there something that we can do to maybe prevent some of that anxiety?
Yes, definitely. We can't undo what's happened, but we want to teach them to rethink about it. Sometimes that means doing something fun so that they start to think about, oh, instead of it's going to storm and I'm scared, this is when I get my favorite treat. This is when we go play my special game. And using exercise and training along with things like medications can really help to make them more at ease and even look forward to times where previously it was scary.
So if it's storming outside and he starts to get his scary shakes, we can actually start playing ball and just maybe distract him, or he'll start to relate playing ball with when it's stormy outside, so he doesn't necessarily focus on that.
Yes, exactly. And some dogs, we need to use something that's really high value because they're so nervous they don't want their normal things. So we're going to pull out the big guns. We're going to pull out the special treat, the special toy, so that we're going to focus on good things. They're going to feed off of our anxiety. So if we act anxious or we inadvertently reward the behavior because we're coddling them, not just cuddling, they're going to think that we are okay with them behaving that way. So we want to turn their perspective. We want to do the play and we want to reward good behavior. So it's a time to go through all of their tricks. Get them to do what they know, so we're getting rewarded for those things instead of for the actions that come with being scared.
And what are some of the other, outside of the obvious signs of them, shaking or their like noses drooling, what are some of the other symptoms of anxiety that we need to watch out for?
Panting, which can happen from being hot also, but their eyes get wide enough you can start to see the whites of their eyes. They pace. They may even lift up a front paw. And some people think it's that they want to have their paw held. It's actually an anxious behavior. And so while we want to observe those things, again, we don't want to correct them, but we want to do things that are going to make them more comfortable. And medications. We probably need to talk about those. There are natural products, things that are going to have chamomile, valerian, L-theanine, so things like comfort chews where it's just too relaxed, just like us drinking a tea. Yeah. Some dogs need a little more. They need a prescription. And it's more for single events rather than an everyday anxiety medicine. But that might be for a couple of days in a row. Things like trazodone. Occasionally we'll use something like Xanax. Sileo is a product that's made just for noise aversion. It's actually a gel that we put into the pocket of their cheek, and it gets absorbed through their gums. We want them to still be able to function, to play and to eat, but to feel relaxed.
And without them being sleepy, because you want to still be able to play with them and have them have the energy.
Exactly. I would recommend play with them ahead of time. If we know a storm's coming, or especially on the 4th of July, take them outside and play. Play ball inside. Wear them out, just like a kid. So when it is nighttime and these scary things are coming, they're more at ease and relaxed. When the storm or the fireworks are going on, that's the time to keep them inside. We don't want them to be so scared that they try to get away or get lost. So now's the time to check and make sure that their microchips are in place and that they're registered and that their collars fit well and have some identification on them.
Yeah, and a lot of people are using the air tags now just to make sure, just in case, worst case scenario.
That way they can find them.
They can track them. And we talked about ways that you can kind of prevent this, but is there a way to create an environment, like we know 4th of July there's going to be fireworks? What can we do inside of our homes to create more of a safe space and maybe drown out some of that background noise?
Other noises, so music or TV is great. Closing blinds so that they're not seeing the flashes. And then some dogs need a smaller space, whether that's their crate or their kennel if they're used to it, or a separate room, the bathroom, your bedroom. That way they're not trying to find separate spots room to room, and they get their own little cozy spot.
Yeah. And maybe checking to make sure your fences are safe if they're outside and they don't try to escape, because I know this is one of the busiest times of year that lost pets happen, and pets tend to run away if they're in the unfamiliar area and they're scared.
Yes, I would stay with them when they're outside, but yes, walk that fence line. We want to make sure there's not a space that they can get out, or that there's anything that could scrape them if they're trying to go under or alongside and end up injuring themselves.
In addition to, fireworks being this time of year, we're under a heat streak right now. We're talking dangerous temperatures for us, and of course that includes our pets as well. So what should we be considering going into these hot months and these hot days in order to make sure that we're doing what we can to keep them safe?
When they're outside, they need shade. They need a space to get out of the direct sunlight, and water. We want to keep them hydrated. They're going to pant to keep themselves cool, so they're going to lose a lot more fluid volume in panting, so we want to make sure that they have access to water readily. If they don't have to stay outside, I wouldn't keep them outside. They can come in and lay on the cool floor. They're going to pant, and that might be for a couple of minutes, that might be for a couple of hours. That's okay, as long as they're not struggling to breathe. And if you need to, you can wipe them down with a cool cloth. Getting them completely wet with cold water can actually constrict some vessels, but if you wipe them down or cover them with a damp cloth and take it off, that evaporation will help cool them as well.
Is there kind of a rule of thumb on how long they're able to go on walks whenever the temperatures are up?
It's usually what the dog is used to. There are some dogs that they're not used to going for long walks. Now's not the time to start it. So it might just be 5 minutes at a time. Dogs that are used to going out for longer walks, we may still have to cut that back. Also because we don't want their paws to remain on hot concrete. They do have some sensitivity to their paws. They can get burned. So I would recommend more walks, shorter, or keep them to early morning or evening where it's going to be cooler, because dogs can get overheated and we don't want that. So when they're adults, they are going to be able to show when they're slowing down, when they're panting. Some will sit or lay down. Puppies can't do that. They will go, go, go. They don't have regulation. They'll go until they hurt themselves. So it's going to be more important to watch those dogs under a year of age, because they don't know when to stop themselves. So when it is too hot for us, probably take a break. Play inside, do walks around the house if you must, but try not to keep them out any longer than you'd want to be.
Yeah. And tell me about the panting process, because I've always been curious of how that works. we talk about those heat-related illnesses in people because when the moisture is up in the air, it's hard for our natural sweating and evaporation cooling process to take place. But how does this work? How do the dog's systems kind of reduce their heat in their body and kind of cool themselves off? How does that work?
Their body temperature is normally hotter than ours. They're at least 99 degrees up to 102 naturally. So they're always going to be losing heat just out of their body mass, but if they can pull in cooler air into their lungs, they're gonna help to cool off from the inside as well. And so they're exchanging some of that warm body air with cool, and because they can't sweat, they're gonna have to find some other way to do it. So that's why most of them are panting, and we want to make sure that they are keeping their airways clear. Dogs that are a little bit older or have any issues with a short face, or even our older dogs who maybe can't take as deep a breath, they're going to be the ones that we worry about a lot more because they can't get too hot. They can't take deep breaths like a normal dog, and so they definitely can end up in an emergency situation.
And at what point should we be worried about that? At what point would we consider bringing them in for help?
So if there's a difference between noisy breathing, panting, and struggling. When they are struggling to breathe, when we're hearing loud noises associated with them breathing, when they're wide-eyed and they look like they can't catch their breath, that's when it's time to think about taking cooling measures at home and getting them somewhere where they can be cooled with additional medical measures. That might be IV catheter with cool fluids. That might be certain things that we do on their paws to help give them a cooler area to exchange that heat. But if they're struggling, they're going to look like a struggling person too. Yeah.
And I've always been curious about this because he's a chugger. When we come in, he goes right to his water bowl and I swear tries to drink the whole thing in one gulp. But is there such a thing as water toxicity, and they maybe consume too much in a short amount of time and their bodies maybe can't digest it quick enough, or what's that?
Most of the time, if they take in too much at one time, they're going to stretch those muscles of the esophagus and the stomach so quickly that they'll either vomit or regurgitate. And we hear that from clients all the time. They'll chug a bunch of water and then throw it back up. And it's a protective mechanism in their body. So sometimes we need to only provide small amounts or other ways to cool them off. So doggy popsicles. So you can take chicken broth and dilute it with water and freeze it into ice cubes or into, longer popsicle looking pieces. As long as they don't have food sensitivities, things like yogurts and canned pumpkin can be either watered down or mixed together and made into things that they can lick or can be put into their water bowl to slow them down. And that way they're still getting the hydration, but we're slowing them down on purpose so that they don't bring it right back up.
Right. They can actually benefit from it. What are some of the more common illnesses or issues that you see pets coming in with this time of year?
So a lot of times we see GI upset. We are having company over, we're having barbecues, and so there are some dogs that something that might be okay for them to eat but is different, and their guts can be, or their GI tract can be more sensitive. Some of it is more of our either smaller breeds, only because we have bred them to be smaller and cuter, but we've changed their digestive tract. And so they just can't stomach some of the different foods. There are dogs that are more sensitive to fats. And so all dogs really should not be getting things like bacon or really greasy meats. But for some dogs, if they're not used to eating chicken and they get some chicken, or they're not used to, chewing on rib bones and somebody gives them, we're going to see them for that. But stress itself, their GI tract is their stress organ. So in some dogs, between having company and fireworks or change in our daily schedule, they show that as GI upset. And it is stress induced. So we see a lot more of that this time of year between the heat, the fireworks, and sometimes the change in diet. So sometimes we need to intervene. Other times, within a day or so, they'll get back on track. But that's something to talk to your veterinarian about if it happens.
Yeah. Should we be giving them more water in general, or seeing if they want more water, or is that something that we should like space out?
I think it should be available. Dogs that drink to the point where they do bring it back up, sometimes we have to limit it. But most inside dogs should have water available all the time. They're pretty good at taking in what they need. It's cats that don't do that enough, but our dogs, as long as it's available, they should take in enough. If you don't think your dog is taking enough fluids, you can use canned food. You can put water right on their dry food and have them take it in as they eat. Mm-hmm. If you're purposely increasing the water intake, sometimes we will see softer stools. But if it's something that they need, their body's going to use it and they're going to be just fine.
Yeah. And going back to the medications that you recommended, how does one go about getting those? How are those available?
That's a good question. The non-prescription products you can find at a lot of pet stores. Okay. And sometimes you've got to look at the ingredients and see what's in there. And there can be the same type of product with different names. Comfort Chews and Composure are very similar. You can find lots of products for dogs that are going to have things like the chamomile and the L-tryptophan, and so those are non-prescription. You can find those made for dogs. The prescription products, or if you are curious about a specific brand, that's something you're going to need to talk to your veterinarian about, because the dosage, along with the fact that it's prescription, has to be tailored for your pet. And there are some dogs that just need something to calm down. Others will panic and potty in the house or tear up the walls. And so we really want to make a plan specific for your pet. And since there are lots of pets that need this, it's something to get in touch with your veterinarian about sooner rather than later, so that they have the time to not only check to see what they think your pet needs, but to get that together and have time for you to come and pick it up. Yeah. If you have a chance, try it ahead of time. That way you know how long before it takes effect in your dog. Is it going to be 30 minutes or is it going to be an hour and a half? And what is the effect? Does it have the effect we want, or do we need something else?
Yeah, something stronger maybe.
Or change the dose.
Yeah, yeah. And just what would you recommend for pet owners this time of year? Is there any just general advice, things that we should just be looking out for, preparing for, just so we can make sure our pets stay as safe as possible during all the summertime activities?
Between the summer and the weather that we get, including them in your emergency kits is important. If for some reason you have to leave suddenly in a storm, or you end up in your basement, you want to have stuff for your pet as well. So sometimes that means a small canister of their food. If they eat canned food, don't forget to have a can opener. Have a dish that you can provide them some water, some blankets that you can use specifically for your pet. And it's always nice to have a copy of their latest medical record or their vaccines, along with maybe their microchip information. So if they get lost, you can get in touch with the company that has it, and put that just in a sealed bag. And that way you've got an emergency supplies, not only for your family, but for your pet, which is part of our family for a lot. If you know that your pet has anxieties and you're not going to be home, set things up ahead of time. That way they've got their space, you've already got the TV or the radio, and then this is a great time of year where we have lots of sunlight. We may have a little more time in our day to include them in our activities. So enjoy it, enjoy your pet. Let it be the time of year where you really get to reinforce their importance in your life and have them be more than just the couch potato.
You're not a potato, are you? Yes. Sometimes I'm a chicken nugget. I'm a little potato. Well, thank you. I think that's all I have. Did you have any questions? He said, did you?
When they come in as puppies, they look like chicken nuggets.
I know. Were you a little chicken nugget?